the meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Hanley, if you'll do the roll call.
Yes. Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mrs. Tidwell? Here. Mrs. Amick?
Here.
Mr. Witt? Here. Mr. Keegan?
Here.
Dr. Singh?
Here.
And Mrs. Bowen is not here.
Okay, great. At this time, I'd like to call Dr. Neidig to the microphone. We're going to have some recognitions this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the Board of Education for the opportunity to acknowledge a few of our staff members that have reached a very, very important milestone at some point over the last few years. The staff members being honored tonight are part of an elite group that have dedicated themselves to the school district for 25 years. Before I continue, I just want to paint a picture of what life was like in 1997, just to put things in perspective. So the cost of a gallon of gas was $1.22. The cost of a car to put the gas in was $16,900. Titanic was the most popular film, and Seinfeld was actually still on the air, not even in reruns yet. And a little tech upstart called Google was registered as a domain name. So overall, the world was certainly a different place back then, but those being honored here tonight were different as well. However, over those 25 years, they made strong connections with students, staff, and families, evolved to meet the challenges of changing times, and grew in terms of their individual positions. I can only imagine the time, commitment, and sacrifice that was needed to keep these staff members at the top of their games. As a result, tonight is a night to celebrate their passion for their crafts. And so please understand, one does not reach 25 years in any profession, let alone working in schools, without an intense love for what they do. However, I believe all those being honored tonight can attest that the sacrifices they have made were well worth it, because it impacted the lives of countless numbers of children that were trying to find their way in this world. To those of you being celebrated tonight, I say this: while we may be counting the days that you devoted to the district, we would not be here honoring you tonight if you didn't make each of those days count. While I've only been here to observe a few of those 25 years that you've dedicated to this place, I consider myself lucky that I'm able to call you my colleague. Please know that the example you have set serves as an inspiration to all of us. The Port Jefferson family would not be where it is today without your service to this amazing school district. So congratulations on achieving this milestone. And I must add that we look forward to your next 25 years in this district. So it's my great honor to present the following staff with their 25-year pins and certificate. So let me figure out how I can do this without dropping all my stuff. So first up, from the elementary school, we have a special education teacher, Christine Bokina. Yes. We have elementary school teacher, Anthony Butera. We have a paraprofessional at our high school, Deborah Hartman. From our elementary school, we have Marissa Shannon. Congratulations. And we do have some other staff members that could not be here, so I just want to read their name. I'm hoping that they're watching from home. From our middle school, we have our guidance counselor, Keith Bueller. We have our PE and health teacher at the middle school and high school, Mr. Michael Maletta. Clerical at the high school, we have Stephanie Miazga. And we have two elementary school teachers. We have Christine Wicks and our other elementary school teacher, Maureen Zajac, who are also here. It's a nice backdrop. Say that we're going to get you a picture of Mrs. Shatan.
On behalf of the board, I would like to give you a personal thank you. Congratulations on hitting 25 years, and thanks so much for your hard work, your dedication with our students. It's very much appreciated.
We're going to let a member of our Suffolk champion volleyball team tonight and board representative do her report next.
Thank you. It's hard to believe that the first quarter of the school year is coming to an end on Thursday. We've had several colleges visit our school. This allows the juniors and seniors to take a look at the universities and activities that are offered at these colleges and universities. Our fall sports have ended and a few teams have moved on to the postseason and playoffs, and our winter sports start on Monday. Homecoming was a huge success. It was a beautiful day for pep rally. Everyone cheered on their grades. Many of the students participated in Spirit Week. The seniors won the tug-of-war, and Mr. Ruggiero was the winner of the pie-eating contest. There was a lot of feedback from the community and students that they truly enjoyed the parade at night. This parade had a huge turnout for participation. The high school would like to keep the parade at night. There was a big win for Port Jeff, and it was also a time to thank all of our seniors for their commitment to the Port Jefferson football team. The high school is happy to announce that we have several field trips coming up in the next weeks. The students are happy that they can visit various places to enhance their learning.
Thank you, Alexa. I'm sure you have a lot of things to do since you were out so late last night.
Congratulations.
Go ahead,
Thank you.
congratulations. This evening, I'm going to turn most of my report over to our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Dr. Neidig. The foundation of the district is based on high-achieving academics. Each year, we present our new course offerings and our academic data to the Board of Education. Administration reports on our strengths, new courses, or ones to modernize, and areas for improvement. Here tonight to share these extensive report is Dr. Robert Neidig.
All right, good evening. Thank you. Everybody get comfortable. Lot to go through this evening. Teachers, if you want to go celebrate or whatever, but please, I won't take it personally if you
This is
decide
all
to
their hard work
take
that you're
it
about to
away.
show us. Come on.
Well, at least we'll know by the time I'm done who the governor will be. All right.
Happy weeks.
Buckle up. Here we go. You ready, Dr. Slotting-Mohawk? All right. Here we. No, not yet. Not yet. So good evening. I want to thank the board for the opportunity. Our team of administrators and teachers is certainly excited tonight to discuss some of our proposed program modifications. So much like we begin every year, it's very important to talk about the process by which we go through. This would include soliciting input from the department faculty members, reviewing course requests, evaluating enrollment trends, analyzing assessment results, and then of course there's the voice of the students who are talking with their teachers about what their interests are, and we try to really cater to those interests throughout the course proposal process. So one thing that we've been keeping our eye on is the number of students who are in study hall seats, and this is a pretty positive trend that we've been experiencing over the past couple of years. You can see in 2020-21 school year, we had about 600 instances of students sitting in study hall seats. That declined last year to 564 instances, and now this year we currently have only 412 students who are sitting in study hall seats. Now that's important to note. There also was a concerted effort on the part of the high school administration to really make sure that students were getting a lunch period. So there was special attention paid to the scheduling process to make sure that students weren't sitting in those period 3 and 8 study halls. So that also is part of, I think, the solution of getting students out of the study hall, in conjunction with, of course, proposing some new courses that students are interested in taking. You might remember it was a year ago already, but last year we sat here and we proposed a bunch of new classes, and 6 of the 8 are running this year. Our AP Capstone class, our Bake Shop, our Current Issues in Health, which students can get college credit for, our Mystery, Horror, and Suspense, our Sports History class, and Create and Compete actually are all functioning highly this year. Actually, I think the Sports History class just went to Yankee Stadium. I think it may have been today, or they're going next week on a tour and then out for lunch at Yankee Stadium. So I know that class in particular has gotten a lot of publicity. So a lot of good is coming from these classes that we put into effect this year. We've also added a bunch of courses throughout the years, and I think that it's important to note that it's just a wide range of classes that we have added, from ELA to social studies, math, art, family, consumer science, health. We're covering the gamut in regard to these opportunities. And of course, dual enrollment, the courses where students can get college credit, continues to grow. If you look at where we were in 2017-18 to where we are in 2022 and 2023, I mean, the courses just keep blossoming. So opportunities through our dual enrollment courses is definitely on the rise. So this year we want to propose 3 new classes. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Slottick Maharg, who's going to talk about a course which she's kind of resurrecting, but also trying to improve upon. And we'll talk a little bit about the reason why we're going this pathway. So Dr. Slottick Maharg.
Hello. Yeah, I think I need it down a little bit. General psychology, I would love to bring back. I taught it, I don't know how long ago. It was a while. But the students who are interested in psychology, who don't want to take AP, don't have an option right now. And when we are so concerned about mental health, psychology totally ties into that, and I would like to give the students an opportunity to learn psychology at a high school level without the stress of a national exam or dual enrollment, where they can just take it for a half a year. And I don't want to say this too loud because it's using the social studies F word. I want to do the fun stuff. And I want it to be learning at a high school level. The other part is that I'm hoping to stand here in a year from now and propose positive psychology as an elective, which is more than mindfulness. This is character traits. This is getting to the heart of the mental health for these students and adults. So anyway, so that's my hope. And I know I've had students say, I would love to take psychology, but I can't take an AP. And it makes sense. So I'm hoping to bring it back. I don't know about resurrecting, that's a little weird. So that's it.
Well, I know you're going to put your stamp of approval on it, and I think how we got to this point was we started with the end in mind, and it really was born out of her, Dr. Slottick Maharg's strong belief in we need this kind of positive psychology class, which could help not only the students in the class, but it can have implications for the students in the school as well. I'm not sure what you're pointing to.
The positive psychology, you have it here.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So
Sorry.
we want to be able to funnel students from the AP class and this more general psychology class into that positive psychology class. So we think we have it nicely mapped out over the next couple of years. So I definitely want to thank Dr. Slottick Maharg for kind of planning a few years out, not only proposing this course in general.
So that's my spiel. Oh,
Thank you, Dr. Slottick Maharg. We also have another course being proposed by Mr. Chalmers, our technology teacher. Unfortunately, he's caught up teaching driver's education this evening, so I'm going to try to do the course justice. Drones serve as a flying robotic computer coding edtech tool. Introducing students to drone technologies and practical applications at a young age can spark a desire to pursue a career in this new field. Drones are being used for so many applications, from delivering packages and medical supplies to search and rescue operations. Lessons are based in this course on real-world drone scenarios. Students plan out a package delivery, where they fly, then code their flight path. In a real-world drone operation, there may be a remote pilot, a visual observer, and a coding engineer. The students have roles on these teams, and they rotate through them during the sessions, each student having something meaningful to contribute to the mission. Certain technology standards that apply to this course would be to utilize a variety of technology and resources to better understand concepts and solve problems, stimulate or simulate solutions to real-world problems using models and/or computer simulation, and overall just to really get students thinking critically about technology-related topics. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to propose something like this for our students. There definitely is a need. There's not too many conversations that are happening in his tech class. He's already got miniature drones that he's already purchased. The students are very excited about it. I can speak from personal experience. They rolled out a drone class in my son's district this year, and that's the one I hear the most about. So I think that this is definitely going back to catering to the interests and needs of the children. This is where we need to be in Port Jefferson, so I'm excited about the prospects of something like this. And finally, you might remember last year we proposed the AP Capstone Seminar class. That's running currently this year in the high school. And so the AP Capstone Research class is the second course in this model. This course allows students to deeply explore an academic topic, a problem, an issue, or idea of individual interest. Students design, plan, and implement a year-long investigation to address a research question. And through inquiry, they further the skills they acquired in the AP Seminar course by learning research methodology, employing ethical research practices, and assessing, analyzing, and synthesizing information. Students reflect on their skill development, document their processes, and curate the artifacts of their scholarly work through a process and reflection portfolio. The course culminates in an academic paper of 4,000 to 5,000 words and a presentation with an oral defense. So this is a hefty course. We're hoping this will satisfy or substitute the need. We currently have a research class which operates outside of the school day for those students who are undertaking certain research projects. Now we want to build it into the school day and really help the students on their journey as far as completing those studies. So yeah, we briefly got into this last year, but here we are, and we're excited about having this program operating in our high school. So with that, I'll entertain any questions about anything, except how Dr. Slottick Mahart dances. I can't answer for that.
Just out of curiosity, just help me understand, what are the parameters around the ideas that the kids are going to be bringing? What's the guidelines? Do they have to submit their research project beforehand? Can you describe that process a little bit more?
So it currently is very individualized. We're hoping to grow into more of those, maybe the programs that you've heard about, those Westinghouse, Siemens, Regeneron competitions, but you've got to start somewhere in that process. So we're hoping that this provides a platform for us to really entertain student interest in those sort of high-stakes science competitions. But it doesn't have to be science-based. Okay. So you're hinting at some of the challenges we foresee is how do we have somebody teach this class when it might be consisting of multiple academic subject areas. So we've begun to brainstorm. We might have different certifications, different certified teachers teaching different elements of the course in order to satisfy the needs of the students. But yeah, this is just the beginning here, where we unrolled, the part one of the course last year. Then we build into this. But then I think the possibilities are endless, which I kind of get excited about as far as where we can be a few years down the road from here.
Thank you.
Quick question on
Sure.
the psychology course. Sort of in reverse order, that we have the AP and now we're going down. So how much of our regular psychology course is going to draw away from the AP and how much is going to draw into the regular course because now there's an option. Do you foresee us, compromising the AP course? I think the AP course will grow over years because we have a level course that can feed into that, but I don't know if the very first year we're going to have like just all new numbers.
It's a great question, but
I do know
Okay.
next year,
Yeah.
historically, which is 1 year there are 2 courses, 1 year there's 1 course. This is the 1 year.
Mhm.
So next year would be the 2 classes that I would have, which usually we have up to about 30 students. So if you're talking about now those 30 students now saying, well, maybe now I'll just take the half-year course,
Mm.
you still are, having 2 courses, 2 classes for Jeff is kind of, to me, is pretty big.
Yeah.
For an elective that no one has to take.
Right.
So initially, I'm not sure how the students will respond. I'm wondering how many students will be, thrilled to be able to take it at a non-AP level.
Yeah, I think that's where you're going to get more buy-in on
And
your
initially.
level. Yeah.
The hope is that then we could, move towards the positive psychology, but then you also have the possibility of, I can get college credit for this, and then they take AP psychology, because that half-year course doesn't,
What year levels would you be looking at?
10 through 12.
10 through 12, okay.
So obviously, I can't predict the future. I teach history. I
Mhm.
definitely don't predict the future. But it's a good question,
Yeah.
and I know that's definitely, what the students choose.
Every general major in college has psychology, so it's nice to have
Right,
this,
and
for-
anyone who, especially the students who may be leery of taking either another AP or a student who's like, you know what, I just don't want to, that stress level,
Mhm.
it gives them the option. So that's really where my heart is.
Thank you.
And therapy dogs, but that's all.
any other questions about this presentation, comments, feedback?
And so I just want to remind the board that as long as you're approving these courses, they would appear on the December agenda, and you would formally adopt them as part of the new course catalog for the 23-24 school year. Dr. Neidig's just going to take a moment to shift his presentation to our scores.
Stretch a little bit.
Stretch a little bit. We usually do try to do this presentation in a work session. We've been switching to that model. However, the scores were embargoed from the state, and we were not allowed to share them publicly when we had our scheduled work session, so that we could focus just on the achievement data. So that's why it brings us to our November meeting as far as the
We're
achievement
getting
data.
a little bit better with the release of the last year. I think we did this in December, so now we're in November. So hopefully the state's getting a little bit closer to releasing this information earlier at the beginning of the school year. But let's talk a little bit about our AP results from last spring. And I definitely want to thank Jonathan Marin, our shared data expert from BOCES, who was very helpful in the construction of this presentation. So we'll begin with a summary of our AP scores over the past 5 years. And one important thing to note here is that with 2022, we had the highest percentage of AP students with a score of 3 or better, which was in the ballpark of about 83%. So something we're quite happy about. Remember, as far as AP students are concerned, we do have open enrollment, so anybody who would like to challenge an AP test and a course is welcome to do so. So moving on. So we have our 5-year school summary. We've seen strong consistency in average, with our average scores. In addition, in 2022, we see the highest average score in the past 5 years in a traditional testing year. Remember, in 2020, the tests were shorter, they were done online. I think that's important to note. And also, while we may have fewer students taking the AP exam, I think it's important to note that we do have opportunities for our students to gain college credit through our Beacon classes and dual enrollment course offerings that we talked about a moment ago. So if we take a look at our AP English results, they demonstrate continued outperformance compared to the New York State mean and the global mean. Specifically, AP English language composition, we had 27 students out of the 30 who earned 3 or above, which put us at a 90 percentile rate. AP English literature and composition, 95% of our students earning a 3 or better. With AP Psychology, the Port Jeff mean was above the New York State mean, although the passing rate was lower than it was in 2019 and 2020. In 2022, 43% of the class scored the highest possible score, which is a 5 on the AP exam. So close to half of the class actually scored a 5. So compared to the global average of 16% of students scoring a 5. So well above that. AP World History and AP US had strong years with increases over last year's performance, and notable AP World had 100% passing rate. All 15 students earned at least a 3. When we talk about AP US History, we're at 63% with 25 students of the 40 scoring a 3 or better. AP Macro had a bit of a down year with 14 of the 27 students, or 52%, scoring a 3 or better. AP Science scores, AP Science courses saw very strong scores, higher than both the New York State and global averages across the board. AP Biology, 90% scoring 3 or better. AP Chemistry, 87% scoring 3 or better. And AP Environmental Science, 88% scoring a 3 or better. That trend continues with AP Physics. The PJ mean actually increased slightly, as did the percent scoring a 3 or higher at 91%. AP Calculus continues to be a strong area of success in Port Jeff, with 91% of our students scoring a 3 or higher. AP Calculus BC, again, 7 of the 8 students scoring a 3 or better, or 88%, which continues to demonstrate just strong teaching and learning in the upper level mathematics courses that we offer. As far as AP Statistics is concerned, it's the highest in the past 4 years. We had 4 students, all 4 of them scored a 3 or higher. Last year, AP Computer Science Principles replaced AP Computer Science A, and not only is our average score well above the New York State and global mean, the percent of 3 or higher is well above the New York State and global mean there. So, doing very well, the computer science areas. Here we have the Spanish language and Spanish literature results. Unfortunately, we notice here that the PJ mean still falls below the New York State and global means in terms of AP Spanish language. However, AP Spanish literature, the percent scoring 3 or higher is strong, as is the Port Jeff mean score. And AP French continues to have limited students, only 2 of them that challenged the test, with 1 of them scoring a 3 or better. And here are the results for the AP Music Theory class. Once again, Port Jefferson well above the New York State mean and global mean, and 3 of our 4 students scoring a 3 or better. So I do want to pause there for a second. I know I kind of went through a lot of information. If there was anything you wanted to discuss as far as courses that I may not have highlighted, or concerns, feedback, by all means, speak now.
What's our participation rate of total student body taking AP classes?
Might have that information in the next presentation.
Okay.
I think there's an end there. So if we can hold off, if not, I will definitely give you that information. But I think there's 1 or 2 slides that may put us in that ballpark.
Is the way to get data about how many kids actually go on and use this to get college credits?
Not as far as I'm aware. I don't know if that's something we've been tracking over the past few years.
There are some tools, I think, in BOCES that have talking about 4-year degrees and what they're going through. It's almost like sustained over time to see how they're staying with it. Certainly something we can look into with those tracking. It's like post-graduation information.
See if
from
John-
an anecdotal report, students have said to us that they've, a whole year or perhaps a semester that has been shortened off their college terms from the amount of credits that they're gaining from these, and at a much discounted rate. The other thing I just noticed, Dr. Neidig, is that when our N is so low, even though it says 91%, it's 10 out of 11 students, or it's, 22 out of 23 students. So even though sometimes the percents are deceiving, it looks lower, like it's in the 80-something percent, but yet it's still almost the bulk of the class. So, really kudos to the teachers and so many of them that I know that are, might not have had, as great results last year, and then have completely turned it around in some of those cases. So, again, really reflecting, improving, and refining instruction after an AP exam is what we strive for. And you can see by some of these numbers, teachers that really did that and met the mark. So kudos to them.
Okay, all right, let me go. I'm going to queue up the next presentation. So we're going to segue into our achievement data presentation, and I want to certainly thank a few individuals who helped in the creation of this presentation. Certainly, Mr. Ruggiero, Mr. Walker, Ms. Laverty, they've been integral in the creation and conversations that led to this presentation. And certainly, we have our shared data expert from BOCES, who's really become part of our family. Even though he's here 2 days a week, we do really get a lot out of him during those 2 days, and he's not only helping with these overall presentations and data crunching, he's highlighting certain things for us with the district, meeting with teachers, and we have big plans for him to increase his role here in terms of working with teachers to get more data in their hands throughout the school year. So basically, a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, it doesn't end here. The conversations, the enlightenment as far as conversations with the teachers and administrators continues on. It's ongoing, I should say. So let's take a look at our graduation rate. We start each year with this piece of high school data, and this year's no exception. This slide demonstrates the overall consistency of our graduation rate, and we're certainly very proud of that. Here we see the district's graduation and college entry data. The 2022 results are in line with our 2019 and 2020 data. The 2021 cohort is the standout here, but it's important to remember that that cohort had levels of relaxed criteria due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, there were only 4 Regents exams offered, and they were administered. There was a choice of whether or not a student wanted the grade to count. There were things like that in place which could have impacted that data point. I do want to point out that last year, 79% or 63 of our 80 seniors earned either an advanced Regents diploma or an advanced Regents diploma with honors. Not on the chart is that 43 of our graduates earned the advanced Regents diplomas with honors. This represents 54% of the class, and it's an increase over the last year in which there was 31% of the graduates who had earned that distinction. Students planning to attend a 4-year college is slightly down from last year. However, it's more in line with the years prior to 2021. So in this slide, and I think this speaks to what you may have been asking, Mr. Walker, in this slide, the AP participation snapshot over the past 5 years. You may recall that we have an open enrollment policy as we want our students to experience the rigor of an AP exam. So let me just explain to make sure we're clear on what the bars read here. The first bar represents the total number of students enrolled in AP courses. The second bar represents the total number of exams administered. The third bar is the total number of students obtaining a score of 3 or higher out of the 5-point scale. The fourth bar represents the percentage of students attaining a 3 or higher. And you should know that the College Board designates a score of 5 as meaning the student is extremely well qualified to receive college credit. 4 is well qualified, and 3 is qualified. So in 2022, we saw the highest percentage of students scoring a 3 or higher in the past 5 years. 83% of our AP students scored a 3 or higher. So definitely that's a very positive trend there. This slide represents the enrollment figures in our AP program. This is probably a trend that we'll continue to see as the population continues to decline at the high school over the next few years. Also, it's important to note that we now offer, as I mentioned, over 20 dual enrollment classes that students can take instead of an AP class if they did want to earn some college credit. So, and let me just speak briefly, then I'll pause for a second and I'll take any comments or questions. So one of the annual goals of the Board of Education has certainly been to expand that dual enrollment courses, and that's what we've been doing over the past several years. And this is where obviously they can get college credit. So again, the number of dual enrollment courses increased, but it's sometimes offset by our declining enrollment that we're experiencing at the high school. So we began tracking this data in 2016-17 school year. What you see here are the number of students who were enrolled in a course that was affiliated with a local college or university. And as I stated a moment ago, we're definitely proud to say that for a small district offering those 20 dual enrollment opportunities is just great for our children. So before I segue into discussion of Regents exams, anything about APs or dual enrollment courses? I know somewhat a little bit repetitive here, but sometimes we don't do these presentations in conjunction with one another, and I just want to make sure that you're clear. Go ahead, sir.
Just the AP enrollment slide. We have 333 total students. Is that in high school?
9 to 12, that's for 2022.
Right. And 115 students that took AP exams.
Yes.
Now, is that different students, or if I took 3 AP classes, am I counted 3 times in that 115?
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know how many students out of the 333 take AP courses. So that looks like a good number, but if it's like
Yeah.
If I took more than one, you're
Yeah.
represented more than once, correct?
Yeah.
I'll get you the number though. It's a good data point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
So total AP students is really just enrollments?
It's how many
Correct.
seats are taken in those classes.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Regents proficiency then. We'll segue to that conversation. So here we see the overall Regents proficiency of our students with Port Jefferson being compared with the rest of Suffolk County. Sometimes referred to as passing rate, New York defines proficiency as a score of 65 or higher on a Regents exam. The purple bar represents the passing rate for Port Jeff, and the silver bar represents the passing rate for Suffolk County. Our students continue to outperform the county in all content areas. If you're looking for U.S. history, it wasn't administered last spring, so that's not going to appear there. It's important to remember that last year there was no harm policy in place that represents a region Regents. Excuse me, let me say that again. There was a no harm policy in place so that a Regents exam was only counted if it helped a student. Okay? And also, we did have a superintendent's appeal. If a child scored between a 50 and a 64 but passed the course, they could have that designated on their high school transcript as well. Now, this was born out of the conversation we had earlier with the curriculum committee about comparisons with 2019 data. And surprisingly, it actually is very similar to one another. 2019 was the last traditional year of Regents exams prior to the pandemic, and it was interesting to see that despite the no harm policies and superintendent's appeals that were in play in 2022, overall they're pretty consistent with some minor deviations here and there.
If I recall, the chemistry was reported by multiple school districts as one of the most challenging exams in quite some time.
Yes.
So I'm not surprised by that bar
Yes,
right
I heard
there.
that even from not only the students here, but from the teachers, but also my own daughter and her teacher, so, yes. This slide represents mastery rates on the June Regents exams, and an annual goal that we try to work towards at the building levels is to, of course, really get those mastery rates up. New York State defines mastery on a Regents exam as a score of 85 or greater. Again, I think it's important to remember that last year there was no harm policy in place. We had the superintendent's appeal. I say that because I worry about the psychological impact that could have had on our students, and knowing that they that this grade may not count for them. I just throw that out there. English Language Arts was the only Regents exam in which the students did not outperform Suffolk County. You know, some basic digging did reveal, you know, we did have a first year teacher teaching that class, the first time teaching it. Okay. Once again, in regards to a comparison between 2019 and 2022, we can see the mastery rates were higher in 2019 than they were in 2022. And again, there's probably many factors that could go into that. I won't spare you, I won't repeat myself again. But just throwing that information out there, it's just, it's a great lens to kind of view where we were before the pandemic, where we are now in terms of students really achieving that 85 or better on those Regents exams. So I thank the curriculum committee for bringing that up, because I think it was a good opportunity to explore that question. Because just to editorialize for a second, I know that as educators we were worried about special appeals or no harm policies, and would that really stop a student from giving it their best. When it comes to proficiency, it didn't look like it did, but we do see a little bit of a difference in terms of mastery. But there could be other factors included in that. So I don't know if we'll ever be able to truly extract the reasons for the differences. But when you throw a worldwide pandemic in the mix.
Dr. Knight,
it's
can I
gonna be
just ask,
difficult.
and I
Certainly.
think it's important, if I recall, Regents are created 4 years in advance? Is that with field testing and things like that?
Several years, yes.
So there was no adjustment from the state
No.
based on the
Very
pandemic to
good.
adjust the Regents that were created 4 years ago. So you're looking at a 2022 Regents that was really created in 2018, prior to the pandemic, prior to any of the implications of a, nationwide shutdown in education.
great
So,
point. Great
and they did not adjust anything at any point. So it's just another factor that I think would contribute to some of the things that you potentially are seeing here.
We've seen it statewide, it's not just us, it's everywhere. The
Correct.
learning loss is
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's definitely more profound. And I do think, and again, not to get on a soapbox, but I think we'll see it for years to come. I think it's going to take time to really uncover what challenges the pandemic put forward for our students over time.
In this slide, we separated the middle school and high school results for Algebra 1. Remember, at the middle school level, only our accelerated students are challenging the Algebra 1 region. So the darker purple represents proficiency, and the lighter purple represents a mastery rate in regards to the middle school, high school, and then, of course, the Suffolk total. And the same holds true for Earth Science. We have our accelerated students who are challenging the exam at the middle school level. Then we have the high school result, and then we have it compared to Suffolk County, well above the Suffolk County scores here in Port Jefferson. And we'll talk a little bit about 3 through 8 assessments. So we'll start with the ELA assessment. This is our participation rates over the past few years here in Port Jefferson. Remember, these exams or these assessments are done on computer. They are CBT assessments. We're way ahead of the game as far as this is concerned. Now the state's kind of moving districts forward, saying you've got to transition to the CBT over the next few years. We're well ahead of it, and thanks to Brian Sandek and his department, we've implemented these flawlessly over the past few years. Remember, in 2020, there were no exam, therefore there's no arrows. But this is participation by grade. We have increases in certain areas. We have decreases over the years in certain grades. So there really is no rhyme or reason to it, but I throw it out there. As do I add this slide where I kind of compare us on the ELA assessment to other districts. So where is PJ in relation to these districts with regard to participation rate? We looked at districts that may share some of the demographics, such as size and academic performance, as well as proximity to our district, but I don't know how to explain why some districts have 90%, we have 57%, and other students or other districts have 20% participation rate, but it's just good to show you where we stand there. As we get into the data, you can see on this slide the Port Jefferson proficiency and mastery rates on the 3 through 8 ELA assessment compared with the rest of Suffolk County. We included the enrollment numbers for each grade level and the number of students who tested. It's important to note that we have between 35 and 55% of our students opting out of these tests at various grade levels. This fact makes it very difficult to extract any true understanding of how grade cohorts are doing. We are above Suffolk County in both proficiency and mastery in grades 5 through 8. Grade 3 is much higher than Suffolk County in terms of proficiency. Grade 4 is below Suffolk County in terms of proficiency and mastery. But again, we had 35% of that grade not tested. We certainly want all of our students to reach that level 4, which is that mastery rate. Unfortunately, you may have seen in various articles published in Newsday, and other media reporting, but the scores were down pretty much across the board when it comes to reading and math. Just another way to kind of present the ELA assessments in terms of proficiency and mastery. You can see we're putting the arrows back, that the absence of the 2020 data made us omit the arrows for a while, but we'll start to build them back on so you can see how cohorts do across the year. So I'm kind of excited as we build back if we can look for any trends that we might be able to utilize any sort of information for to address any sort of learning supports that need to be put into place. And much like ELA, we'll start with math participation rates. Again, no real rhyme or reason as far as why certain grades from year to year are up or down, but that is the data that we have for you. Remember, just to note that grade 8 math does not include students who took the algebra exam. They wouldn't be factored in here. Here's where we stand in terms of comparison with other districts as far as participation rates. This is just in terms of math. And then, of course, we have the Port Jefferson proficiency and mastery rates on the 3 through 8 math assessment compared with the rest of Suffolk County. Port Jefferson is higher than Suffolk County in proficiency and mastery rate at every level except for 8th grade. Remember, we have our accelerated students who are not sitting for the grade 8 math assessment. And again, much like with the ELA, we're starting with the arrows there to try to draw some conclusions as far as trends or patterns as far as proficiency or mastery. But I will have you know that Jonathan Marin, our shared data expert, working with me, the principals, we're trying to make sure that at the administrative level, we have a clear understanding of how the data is warehoused and what data we can roll out to the teachers so that they can extract information from these assessments, even when they do have high numbers of students not sitting for the exam. I think it's a worthwhile exercise to have them go through the information, look at some of the questions that are released, and then talk with teachers about them at department level meetings and grade level meetings and things of that nature. So that process, as I said before, will be ongoing throughout the school year. And finally, we have our science assessment results for 4th grade. PJ students outperformed Suffolk County in both areas of proficiency and mastery. at the 4th grade level and also at the 8th grade level. I'm sure you're sick now of hearing about incomplete or data and things of that nature, so let me start to share some information where we do have high levels of confidence in regards to our students. So we'll start at the elementary school with our Fontes and Pinnell benchmarking. This is another metric we utilize in the elementary school to measure student progress in reading. The assessments are administered 3 times a year in the fall, winter, and spring. This slide represents students who were on grade level at the end of last year in kindergarten through 5th grade. So this is with almost all of our students sitting for these benchmarks across the board. This is the, we tried to make the data very clear for you this year. These are the students that are on grade level. So if we're talking about a 5th grader, we can say 53% of our 5th graders were on grade level at the end of 5th grade. 82% of our 4th graders, 82% of our 3rd graders, 82 or 85% of our 2nd graders, 53% of our 1st graders, and 77% of our kindergartners were on grade level at the end of the year, according to this benchmark. Of course, students who do require more support are given more support through a lot of the interventions that we prescribe both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And also this year we did subscribe once again to the Ames Web digital platform, which will help us benchmark those students who are struggling, just students who are struggling now, not a comprehensive benchmarking system, but so we can really keep our fingers on the pulse on weekly or bi-weekly assessments. They're very quick snapshots of where a student is at a certain point in time. That is very helpful for teachers as far as informing their instruction. So we also use the iReady at the elementary school. So here we have the results of the iReady at the end of last year. This is also administered 3 times during the school year. We count on this third-party software to provide us with a better overview of how our students are progressing. It's between the student and the computer. We take the teacher out with the Fontes and Pinnell benchmarking. The teacher plays a critical role in that. Here it's between the child and the computer. These are the results of the iReady piece there, okay? The dark, let me just explain. The dark purple, of course, is our percent of students meeting end of grade level expectations for reading, and the lighter purple is regard to meeting the end of year expectations in math. And just because we had nothing better to do, I said, let's put the measures together. Okay, so here we see what the Fontes and Pinnell benchmark is revealing versus what the iReady is revealing. We have multiple measures. We might as well use the data that we have, and in most cases it's somewhat similar. When you talk about 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grade, they seem to be very, and 1st grade as well. Maybe kindergarten and 4th grade being somewhat outliers there, with one benchmark revealing, either higher or lower levels. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool exercise to utilize. And so this data in and of itself will reveal some things we can do differently moving forward.
Dr. Knight,
Yes.
this might be a question for Ms. Laverty. When you're giving the Fontes and Pinnell, I know it's an individualized assessment, are you using both a fiction and a nonfiction text, or are you only giving a Fontes and Pinnell with a fiction text in the elementary? Do you know that information?
We rotate back and forth. So when you sit down with the child, you don't give both at one time.
Okay, so you might, in the beginning of the year, give the nonfiction, and middle of the year, give the fiction. I think what's important when you talk about that is you're talking about, it could be a genre-related issue, whereas the iReady is potentially looking at phonics, high-frequency words, vocabulary, and comprehension across both fiction and nonfiction, whereas now your Fontes and Pinnell might be just looking at fiction or nonfiction, depending on the end-of-the-year measure. So definitely using them together, as Dr. Neidig is talking about, is really helpful, because you're talking about comprehension over different genres, right? Nonfiction and fiction. And then getting to the root of vocabulary or comprehension. So hopefully the teachers find value in both of these assessments, and I know that they have talked a lot about that as well.
And here we have our middle school iReady assessments. Dark purple here represents the percentage of students meeting the end of year grade level expectations in reading, and the light purple is in math. So whereas the 3 through 8 assessments, incomplete data, of course, here we have pretty much all, if not every single one of our students in the various grade level participating in this. In the previous years, we sometimes relied to, did they meet growth expectations? This is straightforward, very clean data as far as, are you on grade level or are you not at the end of the year? And so I think it's important to just go that route moving forward coming out of the pandemic. And this is straight from the iReady dashboard. You can see when we're talking the green, I know there's like a shaded green, which is above grade level. The green is on grade level. And then you get into yellow and red, which is referencing certain grade levels behind. But this is your snapshots right from the iReady data from the spring for reading, and the same for math. So you can certainly see the end, the number of students who are taking the test. In many cases, it's every single child in the class. So this is really good information to really give us and inform, tell us where we're at, but then of course give us some direction. We also have the iReady diagnostic, which is, the iReady instructional piece, which we use for certain populations of students to provide levels of intervention so we can really hone in on the areas where they need support. Questions? Yes.
I see in this iReady testing, we do have significant participation. I don't see that, obviously, with the ELA and math scores, and that was initially because it was linked to APPR, which was teacher performance, and it was going to be a whole thing. Has that ended? Have we gotten rid of that yet?
It looks like it's on its last legs, but it's not ended yet.
It's not ended
It's
yet.
not ended yet, so we can still count on there being a healthy opt-out movement. Even though they've proven their point, the state still hasn't gotten the message. Because I would like to see our participations number grow to those districts who are doing well. And I think if we put a carrot out there for some of the families and something that our teachers would support, like whether you agree or disagree with programs like the SEAL program that some of the parents that were disappointed that were going away, or something similar to that, that if you take the test, then we can justify bringing this program back because we can identify these gifted and talented students, or something else that gets our numbers up. I mean, I'm willing to discuss anything. I'm not.
It's a great point, and you highlight something that I was supposed to say when I talked about iReady, and I didn't say. I came across a study from June of 2022 where the state, New York State, there's a statement somewhere in here that I didn't. iReady was also shown, I think I had it in one of my speaking points. iReady was also shown to accurately predict end of the year proficiency rate. So there's a very strong correlation. If they say that you're on grade level or you're above grade level on here, you would have gotten a 3 or 4 on a state exam. That has been documented as of last June. This big report came out.
Yeah, I
So
like this
that's
idea.
why we kind of do have all our eggs in this basket. In the elementary school, we do have a little bit more. We have the Fontes and Vanilla and the iReady. But you're right, in the absence of that data, at least we have these kind of third-party benchmarks working. I mean, and I am studying the landscape in this country, and you do see some states going to, no, we're just going to use these third-party vendors because we can get the kids to take the test, and it's pretty accurate. But we're not there yet in New York.
And I think these test teachers actually get the results, and now they can tailor it to their instruction to the children. Where the state test, they don't get the results, so it doesn't help them with the instruction with those students. So that's probably why that's better
Yeah,
data.
it's all digitally based. They can have groupings, instructional
Yeah,
groupings in
it does
there.
all that for the
They can
teacher,
see,
yeah.
who's read for a tier intervention and things
Right.
like that. It is helpful. And it's interesting because the iReady results really do mirror what you're hearing in the news about math results, across the country, because you could see our math results are slightly lower than our ELA results for the iReady. So it does seem to be more indicative of what a state assessment would tell you.
Yeah, all those reports are noting families feel much more comfortable
Reading.
doing reading with the children than they do with math, and so that's why the math scores take more of a hit than the reading scores do in these sort of times. Yeah, good point.
Agreed.
Nobody wants to teach to a test either.
Correct.
Say again?
Nobody wants to form a
Teach.
curriculum around a
Okay.
test.
Correct.
Right.
Dr. Neidig, just, and I grant that this is pretty preliminary review for me on this, and you're the expert, but I've got a sense that maybe there's a little bit of softness in the younger grades, particularly as it relates to ELA and reading. Is that inaccurate? And then additionally, you know, some of the results, like 53% on this, you know, it just, what are we trying to achieve in terms of numbers? Are these numbers directionally positive for us? That just would be helpful to me. So two questions, really.
Well, what we do at the classroom levels, we don't look at the numbers, we're looking at the individual child, and we're looking at what can we do to advance their skill set. And so this is nice for these sort of discussions, but when you get to the classroom level, the teachers are honing in on, this is where this student's at, and this is what I know I can do to advance their skill. I know that's kind of a weird answer, but I didn't understand necessarily what you meant by softness. That's why.
Well, I mean, just worse scores. So for example, the you know, 3rd and 4th grade is the only place where we're not beating mastery compared to the Suffolk number, right? So for example, but then there's a rebound, right? So are we gleaning anything from that? Does that mean
You're
anything?
talking about the state assessments,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
tough.
think-
It's tough. We can use the bars and we can hone in on the most individualized information we can get, but it's tough when you don't have large groups of children taking the test.
exam.
It's hard to broadcast. And even the children, you also have to think the psychological factor. When the students are taking the test, and whether the classroom or across the hall or in the same classroom, the students aren't taking the test, so how seriously are they taking that? We have higher levels of confidence in the iReady. We talk with the students that, you know, at the middle school level, we're saying, hey, listen, this is going to feed into enrichment and acceleration opportunities for you. So we're pretty clear that the information, we're pretty confident, I should say, that the information we're getting is pretty accurate. Whereas there's just too many things missing for the state to glean any information, but it is a necessary, it's a necessary job to kind of take the opportunity to go through and see what, when I refer to this bar system, it's where the state is housing the information for administrators and teachers to really go through and say, this is the information, these are some of the questions on the test, this is where you performed, this is where high levels of students did not get the question right. So, you know, it's a worthwhile exercise. It can't hurt any to go through it.
So let me just ask you this then. So the Fathis and Pinnell benchmark for elementary school, you know, are these numbers what we're looking for, right? What is our own expectation of these numbers? And is this satisfactory? I mean, you know, it's a benchmark, but benchmark against what as well?
And I almost, you know, Dr. Neidig is always ambitious. He always tells me his benchmark's 100%. I just will tell you that. He always says that. From the time he was a middle school principal, he told me that. That it should never be anything less than 100%. So I understand that.
That's where my head's at.
Yes, but I think for me, when we look at this, I almost feel like it's a reset, and I hate to say that. I feel like this is a starting point for us after what we've been through over the last several years, and now we can really work to improve these from where we are now. It's almost like, I don't want to say we lost time because everybody worked so hard, but there were so many factors included in there that I feel like this is a good place to start and say, and we've talked to the principals about this in our principal meetings, about these are things you now need to set attainable goals based on. You know, what do you want to see these numbers at, and what is attainable? What is that stretch to push more kids up? You know, you're not going to get to 100% overnight, right? So what's the next level? Where do you want to go? And they weave those into their goals, into their own building goals about what grade levels they want to see and what they want to see improvements on. And they'll be specific. You know, they'll say, Fountas and Pinnell, I want to increase it from 53% in 5th grade up to 60%. You know, they'll give themselves those types of goals. And then we'll compare it at the end of the year to see how they did.
But what informs those goals? And again, I could be very just simplistic here because I'm not an educator, but how would you determine that that's the appropriate goal?
Well, I think that's the conversation with the principal, right? They're talking about how many kids they have. They know the population that they're dealing with. They know what percentage are students with disabilities, what students are percentage of ENL. They have those, and they'll say to me, this is why I'm only going for this amount.
But this is where, and we've been kind of broadcasting this more commonly over the last few years, we're looking for progress for each of the students. what levels of progress did each student make? And so that's where, when you're down in the trenches, that's where we're looking at the individual kid, the individual child, and what levels of progress. And yeah, that's where it's a little bit different conversations when you're in the classrooms, speaking with teachers and the work that they're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Neidig.
you very much.
We have a big audience. Okay, so we will move on to committee reports, and thank you, Dr. Neidig, because I chair the curriculum committee, and you basically covered everything that went on at our curriculum committee, so thank you for that. There's your update. And I know for finance, we're going to get an update at our next meeting, so I will move on to policy.
Our policy committee met on November 1st, and we reviewed sections such as ethics for school board officers and employees, responding to inquiries regarding executive session, public concerns, complaints about federally funded programs, curriculum materials, complaints, and student harassment and bullying prevention. The gist of many of these are just some edits. For example, ethics of school board officers, employees, gift value changed to $75, and there was a additional section that was the disclosure of information from a properly convened executive session is not prohibited where it is warranted to appropriate law enforcement entities for an investigation and possible action, or where a board member is compelled to reveal information in a court case. So that was always a gray area in the law, but now that is documented in the policy. Most of these policies come from New York State, so we review and adopt what we feel is necessary. They responded to inquiries regarding executive session. When we go to executive session, we usually motion to go into that executive session. We're just going to, from here on, move forward about saying what it's regarding without being too specific as to compromise the confidentiality of why we're going into executive session, but it gives the public a little bit more knowledge of why we're going into executive session. No action will take place in executive session except for disciplinary measures against the tenured teacher. Individual members will not disclose information from a properly convened executive session unless, and as I said before, about law enforcement entities and court cases. And minutes will be taken where the information is required to be made public under Freedom of Information Act legislation, FOIL. Some of the other things, the complaint procedures for federal and state funded programs, New York State Department of Ed and United States Department of Ed, those we have now adopted some procedures about how to take those complaints. Also complaints regarding curriculum materials. We've established a chain of command for taking an investigation, enacting regulations, and examining materials. The superintendent will be in charge of making a decision and notifications, and if those are not satisfactory, then the Board of Education can hear the matter if it's not satisfied. Those were the general things that we went over, and we will be putting some up for second reading and adoption. So that's basically it. And our next meeting will be the first Monday of December. All right?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Facilities?
Facilities met last night. We got an update on the summer 22 projects. Phase 5 of the roofing project was completed. Some repairs are needed on skylights in the 500 wing of the elementary school due to the roofing project. High school and middle school bathrooms are completed, but we're still waiting for doors and partitions to come in and be installed. Temporary ones continue to be in place. The baseball field drainage project started and will be completed this month. The installation of security lighting at the baseball fields will begin next week. Phase 3 costs of the high school and elementary school roofing projects and the middle school heat were submitted for state aid. We were updated on tick spraying. The summer-fall applications of an initial pesticide followed by monthly cedar oil treatments seem to be effective. We're hoping to follow the same course of treatment in the spring and summer months, but the timing of the initial treatment in the spring will obviously depend on the weather. We were notified of the possibility of a poisonous mushroom seen growing at the elementary school. Our facilities and grounds team is working with the Cornell Cooperative to investigate and to keep the growth of these mushrooms at bay. In the meantime, the elementary school staff has been educating and warning students to never touch anything growing outside and to especially never put anything near or in their mouths. At the high school, about 45 to 50 new desks were ordered and are being tested out. The new desks are movable, have storage for books and supplies, and also have adjustable desktops that can swing to the left, to the right, or behind if a desktop is not needed. They can also be pushed together for group work. So we're hoping to order more if the staff and the students like them. The outdoor learning space project at the elementary school has started. Trees for privacy were planted and a sprinkler system was installed. The space will host 5 outdoor learning areas, including reading, digging, mining, music, and stepping stone areas. We received wooden benches and stepping stones from a local sawmill for this space. Future possibilities for this area may include a shade cell area and a half of a shed to store the outdoor equipment, not a whole shed, a half a shed, to store the equipment. Also looking to paint the cement to make it look more inviting for children. Security gates surrounding this area will be locked and students will be outside utilizing this area during the school day. A second walkthrough touring our facilities included on the bond was held on October 29th, and the last and third walkthrough will be on Thursday, November 17th. We discussed updating the facilities fee schedule. We discussed potentially increasing the fee for outside groups to use our facilities. And lastly, most excitingly, a group of students, teachers, and administrators will sample cafeteria food to give feedback to the lunch staff for likes, dislikes, and possible suggestions. Our next meeting is Monday, December 5th at 5:30.
Thank you. Okay, audit.
So audit met on October 18th, and you all have a copy of the audit report in front of you, or the audit presentation. I'll put together for next month's meeting just some public comments so that we can do that verbally, but the high-level story is that we continue to exhibit excellence in terms of our fiscal controls and management of our processes, so kudos to the team.
Awesome, good to hear. All right, we'll move on to approving the minutes from last meeting. The board approves the minutes of the October 11th, 2022 regular business meeting of the Board of Education. Can I get a motion? Mrs. DeWitt, a second? Ms. Tidwell, all in favor? Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, moving on to public comment. This session is for any public comments related to agenda items. We will have a second comment period at the end. Nobody coming? Okay, so we're going to move on to the board consent agenda. As recommended by the superintendent of schools, the board approves the following facilities and operations resolution item C1 appearing on the November 8th, 2022 consent agenda. Can I get a motion? Mrs. DeWitt, a second. Mr. Keegan, any discussion? All in favor? Moving on to instructional personnel. As recommended by the superintendent of schools, the board approves the following instructional personnel resolution items D1 through D8 appearing on the November 8th, 2022 consent agenda. Can I get a motion? Mr. Keegan, second. Mrs. DeWitt. Any discussion? All in favor? Non-instructional personnel. As recommended by the superintendent of schools, the board approves the following non-instructional personnel resolution items E1 through E5 appearing on the November 8th, 2022 consent agenda. Can I get a motion? Ms. Tidwell, second. Dr. Singh, any discussion? All those in favor? At this time, I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Fred Coble, who's sitting in the back over there. Yes, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit, who is retiring. So we want to thank you immensely for all of your service to the Port Jefferson School District. You will be missed. Thank you so much, and best of luck in your retirement. Okay, moving on to finance. As recommended by the superintendent of schools, the board approves the following finance resolutions, items F1 through F10, appearing on the November 8th, 2022 consent agenda. Can I get a motion? Mrs. DeWitt, a second. Ms. Tidwell, any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. And at this time, I just wanted to recognize some very generous donations that we received. Trinity Ready Mix Concrete and Station Auto Parts made some very generous donations to our robotics club. And then also from the Royal Educational Foundation, they raised money for educational grants. Thank you to that foundation as well. Their money went to some great things in our education system here. Native Life Workshop in 4th grade, flexible seating in 2nd grade, codable aerial robots. We have materials for engineering and building bridges for our middle school science department, coral reef conservation program in the high school science department, and some updates for our sensory room. So all great stuff, and thank you, Royal Educational Foundation. Moving on to education. As recommended by the superintendent of schools, the board approves the following education resolution, item G1, appearing on the November 8th, 2022 consent agenda. Can I get a motion? Mr. Walker, second. Ms. Tidwell, any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, moving on to new business. The board approves the following policies for a first reading. Policy number 0115, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention. Policy number 1405, complaints about certain federally funded programs. Policy number 1420, complaints about curricula or instructional materials. Policy number 1420R, complaints about curricula or instructional materials regulation. Policy number 1420-E, complaints about curricula or instructional materials exhibit. Policy number 2160-R, ethics of school board officers and employees. And policy number 2906, responding to inquiries regarding executive session. Can I get a motion? Dr. Singh, a second. Ms. Tidwell, any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, we'll move on to old business. Mrs. Schmidt-Tan?
Sure. I just wanted to say thank you to the community members who were able to attend at least one of the first 2 bond tours. I know Ms. DeWitt mentioned them earlier. We appreciate the questions and discussion, and a final reminder that our final tour is scheduled for Thursday, November 17th at 7 p.m. at our high school, middle school. One of the things I wanted to clarify that came up at a discussion point is about the material used in the potential of the turf field, Proposition 2. One community member, the infill material is called green crumb rubber, and there were some misunderstandings about the word green. The word green is a green color. It doesn't mean green as in eco-friendly. So I just wanted to clarify that very publicly for everyone. And so our legal notices have already appeared in Newsday and the Times Beacon Record. Absentee applications continue to be available at our district office and actually are downloadable off our website for those that are interested. And we released a 2-minute video explaining some of the projects and pictures under the Bond Vote tab on our website, and continue to answer questions that community have if you're even not able to come to a tour, whether it be email or phone, or even scheduling something if you want to come see something. So we're happy to do that as well. And I just want to remind everybody that our vote is December 12th at the high school from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the board, that's a Monday, so I just want to clarify that as well, because the board convenes on Tuesday to confirm the votes either way. So that's the update for the bond.
Great, thank you. Okay, at this time we will move to public comment. I do have One sheet here, Mr. Bruce Miller, if you'd like to come to the mic.
Thank you. First, it is very important that we support the kids. Some history. 2004 lacrosse parents asked the board for a lacrosse team. The athletic director found no viability. Too few kids in the high school. There are less kids now. The AD said it would hurt the baseball and the track team, and the request was rejected. Later boards implemented the program under pressure. 2017 bond, lights, turf, everything for the lacrosse kids. The public said resoundingly no, and now you are back in December. And if all this passes, you will be back for lights. This bond is many millions of dollars, most of it for non-academic infrastructure. And prediction, we will see a more grandiose district office. Some would call our field a home field advantage. The Yankees built originally Yankee Stadium for Babe Ruth to where he hit the ball. During my 12-year tenure on the board, we supported all kids. My daughter, Christina, was the class valedictorian. She only played one sport, volleyball, yet she spoke at a board meeting for a new track. We built the track for our sports kids, and today walkers use it as well. And we also built new science labs, technology labs, 2 libraries, an auditorium, and multi-linked and networked the entire school district. You don't support all kids. You don't support gifted kids. These kids have special needs. This is stated in Federal Law 94142. You just canceled the SEAL program. Previous boards canceled the 9-period rotating schedule that made our kids more competitive with the best colleges. Some say the SEAL program wasn't doing well. Well, that's on you. Solution, transfer the teacher, make it better. Don't fail to act, don't fail the kids. There is no vision and no equity. The board majority is driven by a lacrosse minority. We have proven we can be an academic powerhouse. We were 34th in the nation in academics, which drove real estate appreciation, first in New York State, 10th in the nation. No Long Island district outperformed us on state tests. Where are we now academically? Closer to 1,000 in the nation? Vision. Board members are always under pressure to cut taxes. If you have no idea where to go, you go where you are driven. You kill the proverbial golden goose. Port Jeff, a sports powerhouse. Really? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Just to clarify and just to make clear that lights is not part of this bond, I just want to make sure that the public knows that that's no part of this bond. And I am going to just respectfully disagree with your statement saying that we only support lacrosse kids in this district, because we do support all kids. But thank you, and I appreciate your input. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak? Okay. So then I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn the regular business meeting this evening. Mrs. DeWitt?
Second?
Mr. Keegan? All in favor?